Hey guys, it's Chris with Learn with Coffee, and today we're going to be building a web scraper to get the top 10 cryptocurrencies. Now, cryptocurrency is definitely taking off, so I recommend you guys keep an eye on it. But what we're going to be doing is going through and using two different libraries. One is Axios to do the HTTP call to get this page that we're looking at right here, and then Cheerio, which will go through each one of these elements and pull the pertinent data. So we'll get Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, and all the other ones. And we can see there's about 100 here, but I think for the sake of this tutorial, we'll just be pulling from these 10. So now what you're gonna wanna do is just open a terminal, any terminal will do, and we'll make a new directory and call this price feed scraper. And we'll go ahead and cd into this directory right here. And then go ahead and open up this directory in your text editor of choice. I'm going to be using VS Code with Vim bindings for some reason. A friend made me a dare that I couldn't do Vim for a month, and he's almost won. He's almost won the bet. It's frustrating, but I'm going to get the hang of it. So if you guys see me have any hiccups, it's because of Vim. It's not because I'm an awful programmer. Though I guess those aren't mutually exclusive. So we'll start with making a new file called index.js. And we're going to need to initialize this project so it has npm. We got our package.json, and we're going to want to install two libraries. The first one is going to be Axios, and the next one's going to be Cheerio. Actually, let's add Express there because we're going to be actually doing a web server here in a second. We'll let that install. We'll import those three libraries, so Axios, Cheerio, cool name by the way, and Express. Alright, so to give you a brief rundown of what each one of these packages are doing, Axios is an HTTP library that we can use to do requests. So once again, on this page right here, and I'll copy this link for the time being, we'll be doing an HTTP request to get this data, and Cheerio will, if you're familiar with jQuery or CSS selectors, it's a way for us to pass in an HTML string and really nicely navigate the DOM and get the type of information that we need from the web page. So we'll start with making a function. It's called get price feed. And put a try catch. Console.error. Cool. And what we'll be doing is we'll define the site URL that we just copied. And now we'll do our Axios request. We'll start with defining a constant called data. Then we'll do await. Since this is a synchronous call, we'll need to do an await. Method get. And URL is equal to site URL. Cool. So let's go ahead and log that out and see what we get. Clear this. Type in node index.js. And you'll see, okay, no, that's because we're not running this function. So let's go ahead and run this function. We'll see that we get this giant string of text, which looks like it's HTML, JSON, some scripts, things of that nature. I know for a fact that this is going to be in a nested object because it's giving us information about the request that we just did with Axios. So what we want to do is we could do data.data here, and you'll see that this curly at the end, we can go ahead and clear this, is going to be gone, and we should just get a string of HTML. And to do that shorthanded, we can just pass in, we can just destructure data right there. And run the same thing, we should get the same result. Cool. Now we're ready to pass in this HTML string into our Cheerio instance. So we'll do const $. Traditionally, Cheerio is notated with the $, similar to jQuery. Cheerio.load data. All right, and let's console.log what this exactly is. we'll see that we have this instance of Cheerio. It has a few different methods that we could use. But for right now, what we're going to be doing is passing in a CSS selector. That way we can target those elements that we're looking for. So web scraping is not necessarily, you kind of got to be creative with it and look at patterns. It's really important to pattern match when you're web scraping. Again, these sites can be subject to change. If a site changes, traditionally your web scraper will probably break. So web scrapers do take some maintenance. But what I want to do is start with opening up. If you're in Chrome, you can go to this inspector right here, and we want to find some pattern. We can see that each one of these rows, all of the 10, are in a TR tag. And also, all of the columns correlate to each one of the TD tags. So this will make it easy for us to get the data. So what we want to start with doing is copying the selector. So you right click on this, hopefully in Google Chrome. I'm sure Edge and Firefox have this function, but if they don't, then you're going to be in for a whirl. Go ahead and copy the CSS selector. Make a new variable, call it Elm Selector, and set it equal to what we just copied. We see this is a long string of text that target different parent or child divs, tables, tbody. We can see here the final TR tag. Also, this nth child is targeting the very first one, so just this Bitcoin row. We probably don't want it to do that. We want to target all of the TR tags, so to do this, we can just remove that nth child. And now we should be targeting all of them. So to pass in this selector, all we have to do is $Elm Selector. And this will actually target those TR tags. And to loop through each one of them, we're going to do the each method. And it takes two parameters, which is the index and the element. So for right now, I'm going to do parent elm or parent index and then parent elm. And we'll start with console.logging the parent index, see what we get there. See, we get 100 different rows. That seems to correlate with what we're getting there, so we can rest assured that we are indeed targeting each one of these rows right here. And now, if I were to console.log out this parent elm, we're going to see a whole lot of stuff here. Here is the Cheerio instances of the tags, so the TR tag, you can see the namespace, different information about this. And we have a lot of different protocol methods that we can do to get information from this parent element. But for right now, what we want to do is just target the first 10, because remember, we're not going to be getting all 100, we're just going to be getting the top 10 here. So we'll do if parent index is equal to, or less than or equal to 9. So that's just getting the top 10. Console.log parent index. We see that it gets 10 elements. And now what we want to do is loop through each one of these TD tags and get the information from them. So to do this, what we'll do is const, or we want to parent elm, and there's this method called children that we can do. You can see here that the direct descendants of this are the TD tags, so this will target all of the TD tags. And we can do that each method once more, and we'll do child index and child elm. And to actually get the text value for this, we can console.log, pass in that element into Cheerio, child elm, and do tot text. And that will get the text from each one of the TD tags. Let's see what that looks like. We see here, boom, it looks like it got all of the data. Now it's separated by these lines, which we'll probably want to clean that up a little bit. But for the most part, we have the rank, the name, the price, the 24-hour price increase or decrease. We got all of the general information, But we'll also see here that there's some things that are a little bit off. If we go and look at this, this says Bitcoin. If we go to the top, this says Bitcoin 1 BTC, which we'll clean that up here in a second. But what we're more worried about is getting rid of these blank lines. How do we do that? Well, we could just define a variable. And in fact, what we'll do is define, we'll call this TD value, and we'll copy this. Now we have that in a nice variable. And if we do if TD val console.log child index, or actually we'll do console.log TD val. Cool. Now we got rid of all of those blank spaces. Now what we're going to want to start with doing, instead of having this kind of, it's on a new line, we probably want to put this into an object. To put it into an object, we'll want to start with defining what are the keys to this object. Well, we know the first one's ranked, then we have price, then it looks like, or we have the name, price, change. So let's go ahead and start with doing keys. So the first is ranked, then we have name, price, what's the other one? That's 24-hour change, 7-day change, and let's verify market cap. Volume, circulating supply. All right, now how are we going to map these keys to each one of the values here? If we get rid of this, let's console.log what keys child index is. Since we know that this is going to be the index of that TD tag, let's see if this will work. We'll see it didn't really work as expected. We're getting this undefined, and we're also getting no rank. So it looks like it's putting this a step forward. What we could do is a couple different things, but what I'm going to do for this instance is let's start with defining a key index, which will just be initialized as 0. We'll pass in this key index here, and then any time that this runs in the if statement, we'll increment the key index. So that way we'll start with rank, then once it gets the value, it'll go to name, price, and so on and so forth. Cool, we got rank, name, price, all of the ones that we need here. Now we need to put the values where they belong. To do this, we'll want to make a new object. We'll call this CoinObj. And in here, we'll do CoinObj. Then we want to target the property. So this would be rank, supply or volume. But to do this, we're going to just pass in that key. So we're going to do keys, brackets, key index. And this should be equal to TD value. And we'll see at the end of it what that gives us. So outside of this for loop, or outside of the if statement rather, right? Yeah. Whoops. Vim, I'm telling you, man. It's gonna be the death of me. We do CoinObj. See what that gives us. Empty objects. Oh, that's because this needs to be inside of that if statement. There we go. Looks like we got it. Rank, name, price, all of these seem to line up properly. But now we're running into that one issue where we have this kind of stacking, and it looks like this number is way larger than what it's supposed to be. So we go back to CoinMarketCap. We can see here that this has the ticker right behind it. And what the text method does is it just grabs all of the contents inside of the elements that you're targeting and just puts them together. So let's see if we can find, yep, there's that one. Here's the Bitcoin. Here's the ticker. So let's find some patterns that we can use to see if we can just get Bitcoin instead of this other stuff. Well, we can see here that there's two P tags. The first one is the name, and the second one is the ticker. So what if we just targeted the first P tag on this index? And going over to the second one, let's see if that's the case with this as well. And we'd see here that it only has one P tag, but we can just target the first P tag similar to how we would do it with this to get both of those values. Or actually, no, sorry, it does have two P tags, so we can just do it the exact same way. So what we want to do, we'll probably want to turn this into let, so we can redefine this. And let's think. In Cheerio, what you can do is you can turn your element into HTML, and then we can pass it into Cheerio, and then get the first item inside of the TD. So let's see what we're gonna do here. Hey, I didn't think about this beforehand, I swear. We know a couple different things. The first thing that we know is that the key index is when it's equal to 1. So when it's name, we're going to be doing this. Or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When it's equal to 6, we'll want to be doing this. So this will fire off whenever it's on the name and on the volume. And we'll do TD value. We want to reset it. In fact, actually, we'll just console.log this for the time being. So let's comment this out. And to target that first element, what we'll do is console.log child elm.html. This is the method that I was telling you about that will pass a HTML string. We can see we got a few different here, and we got the Bitcoin one, and we can see there's probably a P tag somewhere in here. Yeah, and there indeed is different P tags. So if we pass this directly in, we can target that first P tag. So we'll do. So our selector is going to be P, first child. And then we'll do text. This is a little confusing, but let me split this up here and just explain what's going on. All right, so to break this down, we pass in the child element and we get the HTML from it. So to simplify this, this is essentially what we're grabbing and we're passing into Cheerio. Then we're saying, okay, locate the first child from this HTML string. So the first child of P is right there. And then over here, the first child of P is right there. So it should grab both those values. And then we're grabbing the text from this. All right, so if we go ahead and run this, we can see here that we get the first value from that P tag. And that looks like it's running correctly. What we want to do here, if this if statement is fired off, we'll want to redefine this variable to be TD value. So that way it overwrites the previous one. And I'll go ahead and uncomment out this coin obj right here. And boom, it looks like that those did take off the ending and it looks clean now. What we'll want to do next is probably define some type of array, a coin array. And push instead of console.log here. And as a final check, we'll go outside, whoops. We'll go outside of this and console.log what coin array is. We should see pretty much the same output. And it's inside of an array. Next, what we'll do is hook this up to a Express server real quick. request here. I want to define a Express instance. If you guys aren't familiar with Express, it's real simple to set up just a quick web server. And then we do a get. So if we do a get call to /API price feed, we're going to run a function with the request and response. Once again, we'll be good and put our try catch. Paired up to string. And now we'll get the coin array or price feed. Get price feed. We'll just return that in JSON format. There we go. So that should be it. If I come back to the console and run, it's not going to run because I didn't initialize the server. Port 3000. All right, there we go. We'll see it's running on port 3000. So if I go over to localhost 3000 API price feed, it's empty. Why is it empty? It's because we're not returning the coin array right there. And I'll restart my server. All right, so we got this taken care of, guys. We can see that we have a nice JSON API right here ready for us to pull into any front end. And this is actually pulling the data from this site right here. So if I go to Bitcoin, we can see the price is 18,733. And I'll refresh this, 18,717. We can see that this now matches because, again, I didn't have the page refresh from when I started the tutorial. Thank you so much, guys, for checking this out. I really appreciate the support. We'll be doing a few more cryptocurrency blockchain tutorials. This wasn't necessarily a blockchain tutorial, but just something fun that you could do to add some variety to your site or just play around with the web scraper in general. So thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you feel is right in your heart.